Hi everyone, and a happy Valentine's Day. I thought it would be fun for the first time ever for me to do a Valentine's Day video featuring 10 favorite couples from books. So this is not, my 10 favorite necessarily, but just glancing at my books, these were 10 that I thought, oh yes, I would like to talk about them. I have a couple of different categories, and the first category that I think we see in a lot of books is young love. So kind of really infatuated love, love at first sight, love that maybe has not stood the test of time, but they are just head over heels, can't sleep, just totally enamored kind of love. And that really sweet first stage of love. And so the first I want to talk about are Rob Granger and Bryony Ashley from Mary Stewart's Touch Not the Cat. This is a couple that they knew each other a little bit when they were little, and then Bryony moves away, and eventually she comes back. And does it say that? Oh, Ashley Court. That's the name of it, obviously, because Bryony's last name is Ashley. Anyhow, Bryony comes back. It's her ancestral home, and Rob is now the gardener on the grounds. And I think he kind of thinks that Bryony thinks she's out of his league when that is not the case. So things are kind of unnatural and awkward between them, but they do start to get to know each other better. And it just ends up being this really sweet, new young love. And the way you get to see them get to know one another is just very sweet and endearing. It's a very endearing love. And I definitely appreciated that aspect of this Mary Stewart. It's one of my favorite romances in her books, and I definitely recommend this one. Next on the list are Darcy O'Meara and Georgie from the Her Royal Spyness detective series. I absolutely love the romance that you get to see unfold between Georgie and Darcy. Because you get to see it unfold over the course of several books, Darcy is somewhat of a dark horse. You don't really know if he's trustworthy or kind of what to believe about him. There are lots of rumors, and then there's how he acts in person, kind of what to do with all those details. But you do slowly kind of get to peel back all the layers and to get to know him more. And Georgie eventually feels more trusting of him book by book. And it's just such a lovely relationship that you get to see unfold, and something that makes me just love this series even more. This really slowly unfolding relationship that I just adore so much. Next in the young love, and a shameless plug for the June book in the Betsy Tacy 2019 read along that myself and Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading and Katie at Life Between Words are hosting. We are hosting a year-long read along through Hart Lovelace's beloved Betsy Tacy series. The book that I want to talk about is Betsy and Joe, and the couple specifically being Betsy Ray and Joe Willard. And I will show one of the illustrations that I really love of Betsy and Joe. What I love about Betsy and Joe as a couple is that they are friends for 3 high school years before they end up dating in Betsy's senior year. And so they really do get to know each other, and they're not putting on this front. They're not trying to impress as someone who could be a significant other. They just think of each other as friends. And so they really get to know each other slowly, and there's just a real organic element to their relationship. Joe is a little bit hard to get to know. He stands out from the other guys in high school because he is putting himself through high school. He's working a job when he's not at school to pay room and board. He doesn't have parents who are taking care of him. And so he is a little bit harder to get to know, but then it turns out he's very special. And as Betsy gets to know him, she realizes just how special that he is. So it's just really sweet. You know that he's just this wonderful guy that you feel like Betsy can really trust. And so when they finally are dating in Betsy and Joe, it's just really neat to see that relationship come to fruition. So I just adore this series so much, and I adore Betsy and Joe as a couple. And so it just makes Betsy and Joe as a book so much fun to read because it's something you're kind of hoping for a while. And next, going back farther in time, I wanted to talk about Laura Ingalls and Almanzo Wilder. So this is a couple who really did exist. This is they're kind of fictionalized autobiographies, I would say, the Little House on the Prairie books. So this is from The Little Town on the Prairie. And I picked this one because in this one you get to see just a really sweet courtship between Almanzo and Laura. Laura is a bit more hesitant, I feel like Almanzo kind of knows right away that he's interested in Laura, but Laura's not quite as sure about him, but he does slowly win her over. And it's just really neat to see their relationship unfold, and as they're getting to know each other better. And it's a really sweet stage of relationship, this early courtship, and it's just really neat to see. Okay, then moving on. I couldn't do a book about favorite couples and not talk about Anne Shirley and Gilbert Blythe. So Anne of the Island is a very... it's kind of the culmination of a lot of things in this series. But Anne does not know that she needs Gilbert yet in this one. And so she has a couple other romances. And then it takes her a long time to realize she thinks she needs kind of this big, grandiose romance in order for it to be this big love that she's compelled by. And she just doesn't realize that she's kind of slowly but surely fallen in love with Gilbert. And so this is just so sweet to see. Gilbert knows the whole time, even if Anne doesn't. And I just adore it so much. It's just such a delicious romance. And like I said, a really sweet love. The next category, I had a lot in the young love category. Like I said, they were kind of easy to find ones for that fit that category. The next category is Destined to Be Together. So these are extremely romantic in nature and just really over the top. I'm sure there are stories in real life that are like this, but they're harder to come by. And so the first couple is Jean and Joe from A Town Like Alice by Nevil Shute. Jean and Joe meet during World War II and I don't want to get it wrong, in what was then Malaya, what is now Malaysia. And she is a prisoner of war. They just have a couple conversations, but in those couple of conversations, like something just clicks and they make such an impact on one another. And I think they almost know then that they're interested in one another. They just have, like I said, it's a couple conversations, but it just makes such an impact on them. And so then they're separated. Jean is going to another prisoner of war camp. And I just love, it's just their destiny to be together in this. And so they travel the globe to find one another. And then eventually they do finally find one another. And it just makes it so rewarding. But I love that they're willing to take a chance on this person, they knew several years ago and they just had a couple conversations with, but they knew there was something, just this instant special connection between the two of them. And it's just a glorious, glorious story on such a huge scale. And I highly recommend this book. I read it last year and it is still staying with me so vividly. I adore this book and the romance in it. Then Love That Survives Even Time, that, can surpass all time. And that is Daniel and Eva in The Rose Garden by Susanna Kearsley. This is just the most swoony romance. Eva travels to be with, to visit a home that she used to be in a lot in her childhood on the Cornish coast. But then she travels back in time and she ends up meeting Daniel, and it is just kind of right away. They are just instantly attracted to one another. And Daniel so far is my favorite romantic lead in a Susanna Kearsley book. There is just something about him. He's like the strong, silent type. He's steadfast, but he's intense also. He just has such a like lovely combination of character qualities, and he's just perfectly suits Eva. This was the most romantic story. If you want something that will just sweep you off your feet, I adored this book so much. Yeah, I just love Daniel. Like I said, he's just so steadfast and strong, but he's not afraid to share his heart with Eva. And it's just an incredibly just romantic. Like I said, I was so swoony while I was reading this. It really swept me off my feet. Then moving on into the committed love category. So I do think that not enough emphasis gets put on committed love. But as someone who will be married in June for 8 years, there is something that's just very comfortable about being with someone for a sustained period of time. You just can really like just be very comfortable around them, and there's just an easiness about it. So I think that should be kind of more talked up, this committed long-term love. And the first book that I wanted to talk about that has that is in the Enchanted April. In this book, it's a really special story. There are 4 ladies who are really tired of rain and clouds in England. And so they decide to go for the month of April to this villa in Italy. And in amongst the group of ladies are 2 married women who are just very bored with their married lives. They're bored with their husbands. They've kind of fallen out of love. And so they go to the villa to kind of escape everything. While they are there, their husbands end up showing up, and they re-fall in love with their husbands, and they kind of had gotten to the point where they could only think about the things about their husbands that annoyed them, and they had forgotten the things that they really adored in their husbands. So they get there and they just kind of find out all of these things that, oh yeah, I love this about you, and I love this about you. And there are definitely these things about you that really bother me and can really drive me crazy, but there are also things that I really love about you. And they just become recommitted to their marriages. And the husbands, the same way. They had kind of fallen out of love with their wives and forgotten, what is it that I liked about you? It's just a really special story, and I really like that. Also in this, there is an old dowager, and kind of I think the elderly are really neglected in literature often, and just kind of thought of as boring. And then there is a really young woman in this story, and you kind of get to see special things happen for her. So yes, just a really neat book. And then the next in the committed love category is the relationship between James and Helen in the All Creatures Great and Small series. In the very beginning, when James moves to Yorkshire and he meets Helen, Helen is a farmer's daughter, and you get to see their courtship. And so in this one is their courtship. And so I guess I should have brought the second one, All Creatures Great and Small, which is All Things Bright and Beautiful. And you get to see their early marriage. And it's just, there's such a sweet element, I think, to kind of being young and being married. And they don't have a lot of money to spare, but they're just so in love that it doesn't necessarily bother them as much as, maybe it would otherwise. And just getting the feel of things, kind of, what is it to be married? How can we live together well? And it's just a really sweet relationship, and I love seeing it unfold. And then lastly, I had to include a Victorian novel, of course. So I was thinking about it, and actually a lot of Victorian novels are so dramatic and over the top, there aren't that many couples that I would necessarily want to emulate. So since I talk about wives and daughters all the time, instead I will talk about North and South. North and South has been quite a journey with me. I did not love it upon the first read. In fact, upon the first read, I was quite glad to be done because it felt very dense. The second read, however, I really fell in love with this book. And the relationship, the slow burning romance between Margaret Hale and John Thornton is phenomenal. I love seeing it. And of course, it's kind of got a Pride and Prejudice type dynamic to it where they meet each other and are really like, he really puts her off right away. And then he's kind of enamored with her very soon on. But since he doesn't emote much, she can't tell that. So she's very confused by him. So I love seeing how a lot of events happen in this. They go through a lot together in this. And eventually, you know, everything comes together. But there's a lot of like turmoil and tribulation that they have to go through before that. So I love seeing this couple that can like stand the test of all of these trials, and just really once they do come together, then it's just all the more rewarding. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful romance. Yeah, I just love it so much. So those are 10 couples that I just love their love, and I wanted to put it up for Valentine's Day. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you have a lovely Valentine's Day with chocolate, and we're doing strawberries and cream, and we're gonna have some cheese, and it's gonna be great. So I think that's all I had to say. Have a lovely Valentine's Day, and I will see you guys for another video soon. Bye.